From We Are Spectacular, this is the Spectacular Marketing Podcast, a podcast about everything brand, marketing, digital and social for the food and drink industry and beyond. Today I'm squirreled away in Quo Vadis in Dean Street. Quo Vadis is an amazing restaurant and private members club, which is a great place to work from and also catch up with some old friends. I've returned to the scene of the crime, which you'll hear a little bit more about in the podcast. Today, I'm actually talking to James and Sarah, and they run an amazing experiential marketing agency called Woof. We talk best practice in experiential marketing, how to get started for those of you who have never done this. We also talk about some past successes, some real watch-outs when you're entering into the world of experiential marketing, street teams, promotional marketing, events at festivals, and also retail activation. James and Sarah are real experts and have many, many years of experience in how to grow your brand fame, and also shift a lot of product, especially in the immediate vicinity. You join us when we're actually talking about what we all got up to last night separately, but it did involve some cocktails, some late nights, and some pisco sours. So this morning I've got the great pleasure of talking to my good friends and also great colleagues and part of the Spectacular Network and the Spectacular family, the wonderful Woof.
Hey.
So
hello.
Sarah and
Mark.
James.
Hi.
So we've just been saying how amazingly posh Sarah's voice sounds.
I know,
which
it's
is
weird hearing it on a recording.
And
My mum
James's
would be
how
proud.
terrible my laugh is.
Yeah, don't
and
laugh,
James's
James.
laugh is
I won't be laughing.
a carry-on movie. So we're going to play a game of Who's the Most Hungover this morning, which is
Definitely
two
not
out of the
me.
three of us.
Well, I'm the youngest and I'm not hungover at all. How's
You
that
need to
happening?
step up, James. Come on.
So, Sarah, you were at the amazing ceviche last night.
I've been wanting to go for ages. Yeah.
You never been?
I think I've tried to book it millions of times and never ever managed to get there. But we got there last night with 5 girlfriends, some I
Nice.
hadn't seen for a long time.
Great.
And the rosé wine and the pisco sours.
Pisco is a good word for it, yeah. And yeah, and just a wonderful Martin as well. You know, Martin Morales, he's done a fab job over there. He's some
It was
guy.
very, very tasty. Everything that came out.
Did you have octopus? Did you do octopus?
Possibly.
Okay.
That's bad.
There may have been
bad.
an octopus.
There may have been some sort of tentacles.
on a
There was
school
an
night.
amazing crab dish I remember having. That was great. That was great. And you were out last night as well, weren't
Yes, so I was at the wonderful Quo Vadis, which is my wee
very
hidey
nice.
hole.
Is it really? Didn't we have lunch with you there once?
Yes,
We did.
Good, yeah.
we did, which
We
was
did.
fun. So yeah, Jeremy and the Hart brothers. So yeah, and it just becomes cocktails, and then you know,
What's your favourite cocktail?
super dry, super cold gin martini.
Nice. That sounds a bit James
With all
Bondy
those,
to me.
well, it's actually James Ravenhall who works in our place. It's him that got me onto it. So yeah, and we at one point we had beer chasers, some Schiehallion, Harvesting Schiehallion was going on. So it was like, yeah,
That seems
was-
necessary
Gosh.
on a Wednesday night. That
Yeah.
seems-
yeah,
seems
my
like an
night
important thing
sounds
to do.
quite calm. Just rosé compared to.
I feel
and
quite
a
righteous. I was in
I
bed
bet you
by
do.
10. So I feel good.
Nice, very good. Well, at least someone will make sense. At least
Exactly.
someone makes sense.
We're relying on you here, James.
Let's not go too far.
So I'm thinking we've known each other. I don't know, like
Oh my gosh, a long time.
nearly 10 years, like 7, 8 years.
Lastminute.com was 2007,
Yep.
I think. Yeah.
Was it really?
The lifeboard.
Wow.
And you helped out with the beach.
It was the lifeboard.
Beach,
We
the
brought the
lifeboard.
lifeboard down to the beach.
Yeah.
That was our first interaction.
So building the first beach in London. I think one happened in Brick Lane at the same time, which we'll claim it anyway. And then it was at Finsbury Circus, and 440,000 people went through it.
Wow.
I believe over
That's-
the 10 days, or whatever it was going.
Yeah, it
That
was,
was a mega thing.
certainly busy,
Yeah.
very busy, and I think the sun shone. I think
It
you
was
were you
36
lucked out. The weather
degrees
was
in London.
amazing. Yeah, yeah.
So I then flew to Australia to go to lastminute.com out there, and it was like 12 degrees in Australia.
Of
And
course,
I was just
because it
reading all
was
the
there.
newspapers back home going, oh man.
Typical.
Like, Hyde Park was scorched, and you know.
No, you guys were great. You guys were really up for doing creative activities.
Yeah, and events and experiences,
Yes.
and obviously, that's what we're going to talk about today. So for those of you that don't know Woof, if there's a few of you out there, then it's how would you describe it?
Experiential marketing agency, I think. And then you've got the term brand experience that kind of goes hand in hand with it. So that's how we sell ourselves.
And how did it start? What happened?
What happened? Well, I started off my career over 20 years ago at a company called Cunning Stunts. Careful how you say that one.
Yep.
And I remember when I joined at Cunning Stunts was sort of the whole industry. It was kind of like the young person of the industry. It felt very sort of exciting, and it was kind of called guerrilla marketing at the time. Brand experience but didn't even really exist as a term.
Yeah.
It felt this very new sort of marketing activity that was happening, all about experiences and doing sort of crazy things on the street, and it was brilliant. And I worked with them for 3 or 4 years, and we launched the new Mini. But also they are famous, or most famous, for the Gail Porter projection onto the House of Parliament. Yes, so I was there when that happened.
Wow.
And that actually probably in some ways actually launched, I did amazing things for Gail Porter's career, did amazing things for FHM, and it also probably launched the agency. They were probably quite a small agency before they did that.
That was a big... And how
they just went down with the projection unit and projected onto the House of Parliament. I mean, you're opposite on the riverbank, on the opposite side of the riverbank, and you would project. I mean, it's, I think we might talk about this later, how things have changed. You wouldn't be able to do that now. It was definitely a moment in time. You just wouldn't be able to do that. And what was great about Cunning Stunts, they were out there just doing really random, crazy things. It felt kind of quite reckless, very disruptive. It was very exciting, and it felt like I was really sort of working in a whole new medium, and that was very exciting. Yeah. And so I did that for 3 or 4 years, and I thought, maybe I could do this myself. And so I left and set up Woof. There was a 6 months break, and told Cunning Stunts what I was doing. I spoke to them about it. It was a very sort of friendly removal, and then I did that. I set it up for about a year. Removal, that's a weird word. Did that for about 6 months, and then 6 months to a year, and then James came on board. Probably should
James,
say,
who is
being fully open here. James was my younger brother.
A lot younger.
Were you
Still
James?
a lot younger.
And James was just flopping around, being a 20-something, not knowing what to do in his life.
Absolutely. I mean, I was 24, 25. Wasn't quite sure on my career path. I'd been travelling, had tried some standard things like accountancy, which was horrific.
I can see you doing that,
photography. And wasn't quite sure. And then ultimately, an incredible opportunity came up that Sarah offered me to jump into a family business, I suppose, and leap into a position above my experience, grow a business together with Sarah. And it just felt like it was a really special opportunity. And once I got past the idea of working for my sister at that point, it just felt right. And 14 years later,
is that right? 14?
We're still going.
And I remember lots of people saying to me, actually, when I was saying I'm going to talk to James about this, I think he could be great for it. He could be perfect, his age and everything about it. And they're like, you can't, don't do it, don't mix with family, don't work with family. But it's just really worked for us. We complement each other, I think. So that's why it's worked, because it could easily not have worked. But it has.
We have different skill sets. So we're not stepping on the same part of the business. Although sometimes sibling rivalry boils over. But
I think
in a very manageable way.
I think that's a cool thing in that blood thicker than water stuff, that actually you can, you'll get over it.
There's complete trust.
Complete trust.
That's what I feel. There's complete and utter trust, and both of us have had children over this time of running the business, and had to step back at those points and come back in, and we just completely trust that other person, and that's a hard thing to get in a business, I think.
No, definitely.
And to maintain that, and it is that sort of the family connection, I think, has totally helped the business maintain. Through some really, really tough economic times and big changes in the industry, but we've We've stuck around for 13 years.
And originally, when we first started, we struggled with the idea of people knowing
we were
brother and sister.
Oh.
We were unsure as well how that came across.
I think Sarah's beard gives it away.
Yeah, exactly. But as we've got older and uglier, we've embraced it.
We've
a
fully
little bit
embraced
more,
it.
and actually, it's a really positive.
We get a good reaction, if we're sitting down with clients and we talk about the spectacular family, the network, whatever. And you're always on that slide, and yours is a fun picture rather than that headshot, which is you as little boy and little girl. Yeah. And the question always comes up, and even with the stoniest faced of clients, they sort of they have a wee smile.
We always get a warm reaction.
If you run a business, it has to be an extension of you, really. Isn't it? It has to be part of you and who you are. Otherwise, you're not being true to yourself. So, we struggle with that, but then we're like, it's crazy, let's embrace this, let's make it a part of who we are.
And actually it sets us apart, I think. It's very hard to differentiate yourself, and it's something that I think we now recognise, the trust, the connection, the deep understanding of each other and our strengths is such a benefit for the business. Yeah. And I know that we turn up an event, James is a real doer, and I just know, I'm going, oh my God, where's the toolkit? Bang. Yeah. Guaranteed he's got it, But then he knows that I'm dressing things and making it look pretty.
Yeah.
And bringing that other little sort of sense of magic to an event. And so that has worked really well for us.
So go into your business with your brother, that's the main message.
As long as they're younger with you.
Absolutely. Should absolutely go into business together, definitely.
So thinking about, you guys and the services you offer and all that stuff, I'm sure it's changed a million times over the years. So what verticals would you say that you sort of look after now? Because we do a lot of street team stuff with you, right? Maybe more than events, but I think we're only scratching the surface with all the things that you're capable of. So
experiential is such a broad sector these days, from kind of the standalone PR stunts, the field marketing kind of street stuff we do with you, theatrical live experiences, and then can I go mass sampling, roadshows, installations, and then kind of like at the top end you've got people like Red Bull that are doing experiential marketing so well that people are paying to go to those events. Yeah, like it's become ownership.
They're sending people into space, so and
they're sending
on another
people
level
into space.
entirely.
It's such a broad spectrum, and ultimately we would look after any one of those avenues, and we're quite happy to do.
We've always said that anything is possible, and every brief that comes to us, is often unique and bespoke. And actually, that's sometimes a problem with clients. I think people think that we have a shopping list
or like a filing cabinet.
Just send us the budget over. We're like, we've never done that before. We need to research it. We need to look into it. So, and obviously, we have a lot of experience now, so we can often make an assumption. But I think it's anything that's a direct interaction with people can come under that experiential
literally
brand.
Anything physical, anything in a live environment. And actually, we're quite often finishers, aren't we? So people come to us with their idea, and we finish it. Probably more, it's a large portion of our business, isn't it? We make their ideas happen.
Well, they have a nugget of an idea,
as we do with you.
Yeah. That works really well for us, actually. As you know, sort of creative thinking is time consuming and tough and takes commitment. So actually, when people come to us with either just a nugget of idea that we can polish and say, this is going to work, and we understand the regulations you're working in, and we understand the locations you should go to, we can bring all that knowledge to something and make it really sort of stand out. That works well for us as an agency.
So just kind of pulling at that thread then, a brief comes to you from, some annoying Scottish guy with a beard or a client or whatever going, help, please help us. But, what's the process then? What happens? It comes in and what?
So a brief without a creative idea or a brief with a creative idea?
Either or.
Well, creative ideas, we tend to say we like at least sort of 2 weeks to kind of assess the brief. And we have our own creative brief that we'll often send back. What we need, or what we often don't get, is as much information as possible. So I don't know if it's a lack of understanding of what's needed, but we need to know what other things are happening. How do we integrate it into other campaigns? Often we're not even given budgets. So we try to pull as much information out of the client as possible to begin with.
Just on that point, I've often thought about this, maybe as a future podcast or a course or something, and it's without being too harsh, but I think there's actually a need for agencies to help clients to tell them what being a good client is.
I agree, Mark, definitely.
Definitely. And I know, like, it's so busy and there's all sorts of pressures, but sometimes, getting all... And sometimes I always feel bad going back and asking questions because you don't want to bother people because they're busy and, but you don't want to be awkward, but you have to.
Sometimes you have to go back a second or third time just to sort of clarify information, because if you don't have all the information, we're just going to waste our time brainstorming. And then go back with something that's like, well, we haven't got the budget for that, or we. And we've been in situations where sometimes we'll get quite far down the road of creative talks and meetings, and then we go, so do you have a budget? We've been asking that, and then they go, yeah, and it's tiny, and we're like, okay, you're not going to be able to do anything we've been talking about. We really need to think about your budget here and what
I think the budget things are really important. No one likes talking about money, but there feels like a lack of trust between clients and agency that they don't want to commit to a budget by telling them up front because they don't want the agency to know how much they want to spend. But actually, budgets really
what we do,
channel your thinking and what is achievable. There's no point in us thinking of huge blue sky ideas if they've got a $5,000 budget.
You can still do stuff with a 5k budget, but it's different.
Well, I think it's interesting because you could look at it through the other lens a bit, which is, I think some clients don't tell you because they don't want to show their hand, but actually I think some clients are like, either I don't want to say a budget to limit your thinking, which I think's fair.
I get that.
But also, I don't want to tell you the budget because actually, if it's good enough idea, there's a chance I might be able to go and get more.
People do say that to us.
It's kind of tricky, It
is tricky, and we never absolutely push, and people sometimes don't tell us.
Yeah.
And we'll be like, okay, we'll come up with some ideas. So, so that's that. It's absolutely pulling apart the brief is the initial phase, and then we like to have at least 2 weeks to come back with a creative thoughts, and it'll be a shopping list of ideas generally, won't it, that we'll come back with of things that they could do.
And also the kind of initial brainstorming meeting is rarely the time that the idea is born from. It's you come up with lots of ideas and you chat about ideas, a lot of nonsense and some good stuff, but sometimes it can come to you at any point in that 2 week period, which is why we ask for 2 weeks and rarely get 2 weeks from some clients. Because you don't know when it's going to come to you.
No, and if it's a pitch situation, which we do as well, obviously, then we'll try probably to have less of a shopping list idea. We'll try to go with 1 or 2 key ideas that are more fully realised.
Yeah.
So pitch situations are different from someone who's just coming to us saying, we'd like to work with you.
Some ideas,
And then if someone comes to us, and a lot of what we do is providing budgets to people.
Yeah.
It's people
and timing plans,
logistics, sort of the rules and regulations, the councils, which we have in-depth knowledge about now. We can immediately say, right, well, you're going to need at least this for a site fee, at least this. It's going to take 4 to 6 weeks to get through the approval process. So a lot of people come to us for advice and guidance and sort of top-line costings on budgets, and we spend a lot of our time doing that for people, and that is not something we really charge for. It's
quite hard to charge for that.
It's almost
really hard to charge
for that.
You don't want, because it'd take you more time to raise the invoice sometimes than actually, and sometimes, it's just about being helpful, and that'll lead to a job.
It's a new business tool. It's a warm lead, isn't it? And you're always very
It's a warm lead. I'm very passionate about
that,
you give away some stuff and you'll get more back, and you have to be helpful. I feel really strongly about that, and it is annoying sometimes where you feel like you're doing a lot for nothing. But ultimately, you've got to feel that that's going to come back at some point.
It's a new business thing, isn't it? It's a warmer contact than talking to nobody. So it is, and I mean, I have got, files and files and files of budgets we've done that never come off, but it's the nature of the game.
I think so, and I think there's just a certain amount, as James is saying, I think there's just a certain amount of karma, without getting all Buddhist on it. I think it's just keep doing the right thing, the good thing. It's going to come back at some point, and actually the people that don't thank you for it or don't come back, you probably wouldn't want to work with them anyway. The way it works out. So
you can often tell when one comes in whether it's going to happen.
Kicker.
Yeah,
definitely.
And we have really good relationships with certain agencies like yourself and other PR companies, and we don't have any
agencies.
No, we don't like any of them.
We'll edit that bit out, sorry.
I thought this was explicit.
Ignore that.
Also, I was thinking about, just success stories, right? When we catch up, you tell us some good stuff you've been doing. So, yeah, what sticks in your mind with, the things that have really had the best reaction that you've done?
Over plenty of things over the years. Probably some of the more recent stuff we've done. In fact, probably my favourite project of all time was what we did with Mai. And that was working with another agency. Our friends at Karmarama actually in Caper. Mai was an outdoor dining experience along the South Bank. And it was a culmination of a 2-week celebration of the French influence over London cuisine. And we set up a 100-metre table with 200 guests, and a Michelin-starred chef cooked 8-course dinner. With Mai. So it wasn't our idea. That's where we were a finisher. So Caper came up with the idea and came up with
we made it happen.
We made that experience, the kind of the hero element of the whole campaign, come to life. So that was, it was
beautiful.
A beautiful evening. So, if it had been hammering down with rain, it might not have been as successful, but everything just went really smoothly.
It was a very satisfying event to work on.
A beautiful 8-course dinner on the South Bank for 200 guests, and it was just,
They got huge amounts of publicity in Evening Standard, Metro, it just worked
over 200
for them
pieces.
as a PR activity.
Yeah, it was a pure PR experience, but that was an experience where people paid to come to. It was an experiential marketing activity that people paid money to come to. So,
and we love working on those creative events. They really get our juices flowing, and we really enjoy them.
It worked. It was a good budget, had a good amount of time. And it was a solid idea. And it all came together really nicely. I really loved that.
It was a great event. And then sort of the opposite end of the scale, in terms of a long-standing but a much sort of simpler activation, is Branston, who we've worked with now for about 5 years.
Oh yeah,
and
like a pickle van or something.
A pickle van, yes. Yeah, they came to us and they needed to sample their product. Obviously it's a heritage product, but it is struggling, the very nature of it. So we've now for 5 years, we've had this wonderful van that we've adapted. It's become a kitchen inside, and we run around the country every year, visiting 40, 50, 60 events, sampling their pickle to people. And that has it's quite simple, the activation, but it's so key for them, and it works, and it's a long-standing relationship. And the reactions we get from people when we're out in the street and the van's travelling around and people love the van, everyone loves Branston. It's just sort of, it's reintroducing people to Branston, but it's also targeting people that have never tried Branston before, the younger people, the younger generation. And the great thing about the experiential brand experience in that sense with a vehicle is how targeted you can be, because we can say, right, who do you want to target this year? So let's go to this event, that event, this shopping centre, this city, and you can literally pick and choose and look at the audiences and go and talk to those people. And that's really powerful, and it's given them some great statistics and sort of great results over the year.
Taste is such an important sense of ours, isn't it? That really drives behaviour change. So you get people tasting the product, and it reminds them how they feel about Branston.
Totally.
And they go and purchase, and we saw some incredible figures on those stores where we'd be at point of sale, like supermarket car parks, where we're giving out cheese and crackers with $1 per pickle on top, and they were seeing 500% sales uplift on the day the van was outside Tesco's.
Really?
Which is incredible. So, and we saw that wherever we went in terms of supermarkets, so it's incredible response rate.
And you can educate people as well when you're sampling food. So they've had relishes, which they were serving with little hot dogs, which people are like, I didn't know they did relishes. Chutneys at Christmas, I didn't know, different flavours, different ideas, doing cheese toasties. So introducing people to different ways to use the product, because that's so important for them to continue being a viable business. So
those sampling roadshow activations are where experiential has a real opportunity to go out to the masses. In a way that perhaps the one-off, one-day events don't. It's those people who see it on the day. But roadshows, we're giving away 200,000 samples in a year. So, cost per consumer, between 50p and £1, that kind of activity. So it's a great way of getting product into people's hands. And a lot of people do it these days. Branded vehicles, they work really well.
They do work really well.
But what about ballpark budgets for that kind of thing? Because I'm thinking about anyone that's listening from a food and drink brand or whatever, and they'll be like, Branston, they've got loads of money, and but
not huge budgets.
Well, the initial investment, we actually bought the van for them.
Okay.
So that was a recommendation because we knew that they wanted, or they knew that I guess they wanted to have longevity and they wanted to do this over a number of years. So a lot of people we work with, we hire vehicles.
Yes.
But this we actually purchased. So I think the initial investment was around 35 to get the van, brand it, adapt it.
Yeah. That's not terrible.
Obviously, there was a lot of checks involved.
And it's still going 4 or 5 years later.
It's still going because we made a really good purchase.
Yeah. But that's so weird as well. Like part of your job's being a car buyer.
We never quite know what we're going to do. Mark, we never quite know, but that's what we love about it.
I do, yeah. That's exactly what I love about it. You know, I mean, oh my gosh, I don't know anything about transit vans, but I need to go and buy a really good transit van here, and you've just got to get stuck into it. And
remember we bought ice cream vans.
Ice cream vans.
I remember about 3 months after buying that van, my algorithms on my Facebook, all I got was white vans popping up. I don't want to buy one anymore.
We want a pink van.
But we Topshop, we did it years ago, didn't we? The camper vans. So we
bought a camper van for them. We did. That was good.
You get to
camper van.
No.
Get to what?
Keep it?
I wanted to buy it off them. I did. I wanted to buy it, but they gave it away to someone, a member of staff. They ran a competition, but it was a beautiful van.
Well, thinking about festivals, there's sort of 3 things we actually get asked all the time, right? So. Usually a week before Glastonbury, people go, "Oh, I'd like to be at a festival," and you're like, "Yeah, let's maybe talk about it for next year or 2 years' time." And I remember Superdrug doing it really well with the beauty bus. Do you remember this?
Yes, I do.
And like girls or boys, whoever could go in and get made up, and it was all lovely, nice toilets, all this, So I think there's something that might be interesting to talk about is just how you get to a festival. So planning now. You ain't going to hit this summer, I doubt. Some maybe.
You might get in last minute.
If you're going proper.
Yeah, I think if you're going small activation, if you're going to put a vehicle handing out stuff, you could probably get away with booking now. But if you want to own it and do something really special, you need at least 6 months.
Certainly at the big
festivals. If not a lot longer.
Yeah.
A minimum 6 months. And you need a good budget. If you're going to be at one of the top end music festivals, pitch fees are coming in £30,000. So, you need to. If you're going to spend £30,000 just to be at somewhere for a weekend, you need to spend a serious amount of money on what you put there
to stand out.
And it needs to be at festivals something that enhances the festival experiences.
So
they will not visit if you do something rubbish. It has to be authentic. It has to make sense. It has to fit within the environment that you're in. It's got to benefit the people that are there, which is why a beauty bar is such a fantastic idea.
Was amazing.
I did something with Minnie years ago, the Big Chill Festival. This is how long ago it was. They didn't even charge us to be there. This was way back, but we put in amazing hot showers. And it was brilliant. I mean, people were just so grateful. It had such a positive response, such a great feeling about Minnie. Don't just plonk yourself there.
No.
With staff handing out leaflets, it's got to fit.
Saw an activation. I won't mention the brand name, but it was a computer brand. It was at Lovebox, I think. A huge installation, 2 floors, and it looked like a shop that you find on Oxford Street of just laptops and computers, and not a single person in there.
No.
Because it was selling computers at a Lovebox, and there wasn't an experience. It wasn't like you went into a bar and got a drink. You went and had a go on the latest.
That computer. Jars in that environment. It doesn't sit comfortably.
It didn't make sense to me.
It didn't make sense.
No.
It's just so off your face that you buy. Oh, I can't believe what I did last night.
How did this get my rucksack?
Well, I think the issue is as well with the food and drink guys and girls all being entrepreneurs. Most of them anyway. They then go, "Oh, we'll go to a festival and we'll make money," and it's like. There's no way that's going to happen.
I think
it depends what you do. If you're selling food, you might.
If you did what Strongbow did for a number of years, Strongbow 10 or the Strongbow rooms. I mean, that is just owning something at a festival, isn't it? It's just a brilliant brand experience, and I'm sure they made a lot of money. Me, I think. Virgin.
Really? Did you pay all of it?
Me back in the day. but Strongbow I drank.
To pay it back year one, you almost should be doing it so that you
it becomes a thing.
Just it's a brand thing. You know, it's not a commercial
stop trying
thing.
to own it. Absolutely, I think that's a great idea. And I think also there are so many festivals, so many outdoor events now. I mean, it's exploded over the last sort of 5 years, and also there are lots of smaller events to go to. You don't have to be at all the big festivals, which are incredibly expensive. There are certainly with Branston, we look at much smaller events for them, don't we? Maybe one big event.
Food and drink shows.
So there's loads of brilliant, eclectic, unusual, small, intimate festivals that actually, depending on who you want to talk to, certainly want to talk to young people, they're finding out there's sort of more hidden, secret festivals and events. So I guess it depends who your market is and who you're talking to.
But I think, you know, from what you're saying at least, there may be some last minute chances. I have a phone, I'll pick up the phone to you guys.
And we have done that,
But then, you know, if you're really going to want to own something, really make a name for yourself, it's a 2, 3, 4 year play that you need to kind of commit to, right?
It's a commitment, definitely. To get the results
if you're going to go big at festivals, definitely,
And Glastonbury, they don't really let anybody in anyway.
I mean, that's the whole thing. You know, it's like, it's with all the middle class brigade going there now with their Hunter Wellies, and
I went last year. It's not what I remember it
No.
being. I used to go back in the day, and I'm like, this is not the same festival.
It's not about the music, man, is it? So, and then the other thing we get asked about all the time as well is, you know, the retail activation, which you've just talked about. And again, for the brands that we know and love that then have stuff on the shelves, so there's, you know, great companies like All About Food that they, you know, they generate and make a lot of the sauces that, you know, are on the shelves for some of the high street brands, you know, really well. So again, is there an approach, a process, you know, what would you advise to, you know, I don't know whether it's Wagamama or, you know, whoever it is, whoever's, or Nando's, whoever, who want to sell more gear from those shelves, what would you, you know, how would you go about that, and what sort of budgets and...
So getting people directly into the restaurants, is that what you mean?
Getting into the supermarkets to buy their sauces, you know, like the Branston thing, you know,
sampling, supermarket sampling, be near where you're selling products, I think is key. Get people trying it, or vouchers, something that gives people a benefit of making that purchase and trialling it. But I think people tasting food and remembering or experiencing that food is probably the key to selling more product.
But I mean, I think that Branston example is amazing, and, you know, for anyone sort of listening, it's worth a shot, right? You know, just standing outside and...
Well, Branston had never done supermarket sampling until this year. We'd always been saying, give it a go, give it a go, give it a go. And you are restricted, I guess, on how creative you can be within the car park environment at supermarkets. But in terms of getting an immediate response and selling more product, it definitely worked.
And there's some fun lateral stuff as well that you could think of. You know, if you're thinking, you know, it's too much expense to just try this out, you see certainly at our local supermarkets, you know, down in East Sussex, and, you know, there's people that do car washing as you go in. So you could, as a brand for the day, go, car washes on us. And then you get to give them a, do you know, or everyone gets a pound from the trolley, or a token with your brand on it that they can keep, and you're just generous.
You could totally be creative,
without
helping people.
To cost a fortune.
Or do something to their retail experience somehow. Again, is that, you know, I think that sort of the shopping experience, the retail experience is really important now, especially with online shopping, you know, and how that's changing the high street and people even going to shop. So
I think
is there some way of changing that experience that makes people...
Everyone's expectations of the in-store experience has changed hugely, isn't it? I mean,
well, Amazon Go, right? You see this?
Oh my gosh.
Just to walk
it's
out
changing
shopping.
everything,
Well, if you... I mean, Toys R Us are a classic example of an amazing brand
classic
that has
example.
just failed.
Oh my god, but they didn't
because
do anything.
they never changed their in-store experience. They focused...
It just looked so bad.
So it was a miserable experience by the end, wasn't
They
it?
focused on piling their shops high with as much product as possible and completely forgot about the experience.
Well, that worked for them.
It worked for them
originally, but obviously now, like, you know, IKEA is a retail experience that gets it so right. You go there, people go there and hang out on Saturdays. It's a place for the kids to hang out. There's a food. It is an experience going there. So I think for retailers, having an experience, a shopper experience, is really important nowadays.
And
meatballs.
I can't not go there and have meatballs, but then I go and have a hot dog on the way out as well. That's not okay.
As long as you follow the arrows, it's all fine. It's all fine. But I think, I think that sort of activation thing is something for people to really kind of get behind, and actually there may be, not addressing, there's a great book called Buzz Marketing. It's years old now. You read this book?
I've heard of it.
It's a great book. And then basically, there's a long story at the start of it, but this guy was talking about the best examples of buzz marketing.
Right.
And one of them was, I think it was like Cornetto or Walls or one of these were doing stuff in the supermarkets, and they had opera singers.
Oh, wow. Brilliant.
Like just in the aisles.
Yep.
And it is a bit cringy and whatever, but it would make you kind of go, what's going on there? And they threw up that, and like you're saying, with multiple hundreds of percent.
So simple.
And what would that cost? For
not a lot.
A few go-compare.
And even if it is, if it makes people smile.
Yeah.
I mean, you that's such a win situation. If you can raise a smile to someone, they're doing their grocery shopping. Yeah. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
But and they'll be like, oh, why not? I'll buy a Cornetto.
Yeah,
why not?
Just give it a go. I think so. It's funny. We've actually got a couple of projects on the go with that very thing in mind. So it might be worth talking about.
Drop us a line.
And then the other thing, we talked to you about loads is street teams.
Yes.
And I'm just the biggest fan of it. Like, I just think it works. It's like the retail activation. So what do you see? In terms of changes in attitudes of people, walking past, or changes of attitudes and people taking that up as a thing, because a lot of people are saying, it's all digital marketing now, but I don't think you can beat someone outside going.
I don't think anything will drive immediate sales quicker than something happening close to your storefront, giving away something that gives you a reason to go into that store. I don't believe that social media can do that as quickly as physical interaction with people directly outside the storefront. There's just no way. And for
cost-effective budget activation as well, street teams are a great way to do something simply, easily, quickly.
Anyone with small budgets, $5,000, $10,000, those kind of activations out on the street are so important, and especially like a Kickstart campaign or something like that. You need immediate sales very quickly.
Yeah.
That's or you need extra people through your door, or you need to collect data very quickly. All those things are nothing can beat that.
Yeah. But try and do something to try and twist it up a little bit. What was the one we did with? Was it with Mark?
The salad heads.
The salad heads.
Yeah.
For
that was kind of quirky. It was cute.
I think it's really important not to do it lazy. Staff handing out flyers is a pet hate of mine. Just staff in a branded t-shirt handing out flyers. No one wants that flyer.
It's a really tough gig.
You have to give out 10,000 to get a 2% kind of return, and I don't know what it says really anymore. We get it, it's cheap, and lots of people want to do it because we can give out 10,000 flyers in a week, and you've spoken to 10,000 people. There is that argument, but
does it work?
I don't like it from a moral standing point. You're handing out flyers, it could cause a mess. But if you do that and add something as simple as the salad heads, people in costumes having a bit of fun, making people smile, getting them to look up from their phone, even if only for a few seconds, is really important, and that transforms a very simple flyering campaign into something so much more.
So it's subverting it a little bit. Do something a bit more interesting. It could be the costume. It could be what you're handing out. Make what you're handing out genuinely valuable. Whether it's an immediate discount or it's an offer, it's a freebie.
And not 10%
That's
discount. Everyone expects a 10% discount. It doesn't work.
What does it even mean?
No, it's meaningless. It needs to be something like a free hot coffee, a free hot drink. Okay, that seems like an expensive option to give away 200 coffees a day, but
it can change. It can change familiar behaviour. You suddenly go, okay, this is free or this is half price. I'm going to try that coffee. Wow. I'll go there again. It can literally change behaviour that simply.
That one free coffee can turn into that customer coming back every day for the next year. So,
well, that's what we talk about that quite a lot, which is it's all about high perceived value, low cost to the business. So, what does a coffee really cost you as a business? 22 pence, whatever, loaded in plus the cup. So, if you look at that, and then we talk about 3 times as a habit, always try to get someone back 3 times.
And then it's the habit, you're right. And they'll buy other stuff. There's the other things they'll purchase once they come into your store as well.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, we've done some fun ones over the years. So we did Japarazzi for Yo Sushi, which is always
did loads of Yo Sushi.
Favourite.
Well, those girls looked amazing. They had amazing costumes. They really stood out. They were lively, they were exciting, they were fun. And that worked really well for you, didn't it? Yeah.
Oh, amazing. As a launch thing, we would refer to it like all the time. And yeah, I mean, end up being in Nissans. There was adverts with Nissan cars.
Those crazy cars, those crazy Nissan cars.
It's like nuts. So yeah, we did really well on that. So any tips for street teams then? So a lot of people come to us and they say, "Oh, we'll just use our own staff then," or what days of the week might you want to do, or how many shifts, or that kind of
I think the using the own staff thing. I get it. It sounds like it's going to be cheaper. It's going to save you lots of cost, and actually the hourly rate of promo staff, you kind of like, really, they're being paid that much? But it's a really hard skill to approach strangers for 10 hours a day with a smile on your face and stay positive and stay engaging. And too often, and I think Yo Sushi did it a couple of times, their own staff would go out on the street and they were quiet and they're shy and they didn't know how to approach strangers. And people connect with people. Yeah. So,
well, there was that time we put 2 people of own staff out there and we dressed them up as ninjas on Oxford Street, and the police got hold of them. So I got a call and had to go to the restaurant and say it's all okay, it's all legit.
They're not genuine ninjas.
Oh my gosh! I mean, a lot of we have our own database of staff, and a lot of them are actually sort of jobbing actors, because they have those skills of interacting, projecting themselves, and being confident to members of the public. Because if someone stood there, kind of like weakly handing a leaflet, looking down, you're not going to even look at that leaflet when it's handed you. If someone engaged with you, or makes a bit of a scene, or is funny, or is fun, or is that has such an impact on the activity. So I don't think it's a skill, which I mean you really need to avoid using your own staff. And also we sort of have rules about sort of the amount of time. So we like to have at least 2 people together rather than somebody on their own. Being on your own is really tough. It doesn't
really
work.
Demotivating.
People get totally demotivated, and it's the realities of working with staff. And we totally get people, clients are paying money, and there's an expectation of doing a great job, absolutely. But we always say there's a reality of you're working with people. If you put one person on their own on the street for 8 hours a day, you're not going to get a good job out of them. So let's limit it to 4 hours and there's a break. Let's have 2 people together. Let's change what they're doing, because then you maintain sort of the momentum of the campaign.
That was always a bone of contention for me that I just never got my head round, but eventually I kind of did. So I just always felt bad phoning up and going, this guy's on a break, because it was the ops people were calling me going, what are these people doing? They're chatting each other up, and it was like, what, really good looking people like Zoolander out for all this hours talking to each other and probably swapping phone numbers and copping off later? Really? Of course, it's human nature, right?
It is, and we do try to make you have to do spot checks.
And that's the great thing I was going to say, was you always had a manager around, or one of you guys were around to go just to make sure it's keep. But I think, again, people maybe just expecting too much of it sometimes for it just to be.
I can understand why they have big expectations. They're paying for it.
I think when you're paying promo staff double the rate that you pay, say, your restaurant staff, you kind of, those expectations are through the roof.
So we do suggest a team leader as well in a lot of events, because again, that person is someone that we know really, really well, and they take responsibility.
I go out.
And they will keep an eye on those people.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. And we got into a rhythm, like when we did the first few sushi ones, we were learning as we went. I was learning,
of course.
And then it was just like, and then once we got into tranche or week or whatever it was, 2 or 3, we were just like, right, we're rocking, and it was going. But the operators were all over it. I mean, I was just they were constantly watching them, like, oh, that guy, whatever, didn't hand a thing out for 1 second. I was like, oh, guys, just
we've found that a lot over the years. The marketing team were always really happy, and the restaurant managers were always feeding back issues, because they had demands on their restaurant staff and the expectations of how they performed, who are full-time staff and completely trained in that area, and they would see the promo staff, and their expectations would be very different, and we often had some challenges there. But I think ultimately, if it becomes a success, people came through the door, you can argue, we're always able to argue it back that ultimately this is working. And if they do take a 5-minute break here or a 10-minute break there, and people are people, sometimes all the best staff will push it. They might have an extra 5 minutes on break and stuff like that. That's just human nature. Unfortunately, they will flirt with their attractive co-worker. It's it happens. ultimately, we've always felt as long as the big picture is successful, you treat people like adults, and you can let the smaller things go as long as overall it's a success.
But it's also about understanding your staff, working with staff, managing your staff, getting to know your staff. So we've tried to keep our database fairly small so we can try and get to know people and go back to the same regular staff that you know and trust, and you know that they're committed.
Because I think that's the issue, with some of the other agencies we've seen and stuff, is the list is too long. They don't really have a relationship. There's no nationwide coverage, all this kind of stuff. And I think there's always been that sort of reassurance. And I think what's another important thing when you're doing these things, we always did, was just having that morning briefing.
Totally.
And going, right, folks, here's what the brand is. Here's exactly what we want you to say. Here's this, here's that, here's the mapping.
This is what you can do, this is what you can't do.
I think exactly.
And your pay will be docked if you deviate from these rules. You don't smoke, you don't go on your phone, you don't do this, you don't do that. You have to put these rules into place.
Even on the smallest budgets, every staff member has to see a detailed staff brief a few days before the activation, and they need that half an hour briefing and a phone call, and then half an hour briefing before they start. They all need it. They all work different campaigns for different brands, and so you just kind of have to make sure that you've got them for 4 hours on a Tuesday, and they need to be absolutely on it for those 4 hours.
And they buy into it more if you give them the time and you brief them properly. You let them know what's happening. They buy into it more. So then they care more.
And I think the sad thing is, the thing that there's a certain slide for a brand called Bunny Chow that we both worked on back in the day, and it was the most good-looking people we had on that thing, and we made them wear this stinky rubber bunny mask. And I just thought, we've paid
outside Shoreditch, outside Box Park,
we made them just look terrible. I always want to cry when I see that. So in terms of, thinking forward then, the future of, is this going to stay pretty similar? Are we going to need it more? Where do you see experiential going in the next wee while?
I think obviously tech has become really, social media has become really important. But I think
laptops at festivals.
Yeah, exactly. I think experiential is more relevant now and in a more exciting phase than it's ever been, because disrupting people from our digital screens is even more important than it ever was. We're all bombarded by messaging on our phones and our laptops and stuff like that to give people a physical experience, which takes them away from the phone, even a few seconds, but they're still going to pick up their phone and take a photo of it within a few minutes. It's hugely important and will grow. And also I find traditional media, perhaps TV, is, where does linear TV go? Watching scheduled TV programmes with TV advert breaks, how is there a future in that? And I know TV ads will, YouTube or what have you, but those traditional medias are taking a bit of a hit, whereas I think experiential is thriving and will continue to thrive, and actually brands are spending more and more money on it, creating that. And we talk about Red Bull, one of my favourite brands in terms of what they do experiential, because they've completely owned their experiential marketing by making it their own event. It's not they've just sponsored an event, it's not they've done a one-off, they own the event, people pay to come to a Red Bull event, which I think's an incredible thing to achieve.
But I think what experiential also does and can do and continue to do is provide content, and certainly young people
they're
desperate for experiences, a deeper experience. And I think, there's reports that said that, they'd rather spend money on an experience, millennials, than buy desirable products.
Right.
They want that experience. They want to be able to film it, share it. I think 98% of people going, there was a benchmark report, going to an event, they will take a photo or film it. And then most of those people will share it on their social media pages. And the under 35s, that's so important to them.
Social media.
What we do provides content and imagery and experiences, and I think it's about really creating great experiences for people to be able to share. So it used to be about talkability and word of mouth. It's now about shareability and passing that information on to other people.
So social has transformed experiential as well, because whereas you used to do an event and the people on the day would see it and people would talk about it, now everyone takes a photo and it's shared. You put some influencers get involved, and they've got
bloggers,
they've got a million followers or what have you. Suddenly it's shared across the world. So this great piece of activation that you've done is now shared worldwide. So I think social media has been a brilliant thing for experiential rather than negative.
It completely goes hand in hand. And I think what we're seeing brands do now is maybe some of the more bigger experiences. I think Sapphire Gin did something recently, was it last year, where they hired a stationary train and they invited people on. You actually bought tickets, so you had to buy tickets. And then you got this amazing experience it's on the train, virtual reality, the different ingredients. So it was a small number of people, but then the people that were talking, the way people talked about it was huge. So those deeper experiences are happening to a smaller audience who then share it.
Yeah.
So that's what I think is happening with the bigger experiences. And then maybe a lot of sampling activities are happening to get out to the masses.
There's almost a new strapline in this or something for you, experiential worth sharing or something like this.
Write that one down.
I'll invoice you. So I think, in terms of, and also we need to come up for another phrase for word of mouth. What's the millennial version of that? We need to think about. We should have shared this.
What is that? Let's have a brainstorm.
So I think that's exactly right. And there was a chef I saw on a programme the other night, or he made a comment on Twitter or something, and he said, when we have people for dinner in a restaurant, we don't think it's a table of 4, we think it's a table of 4,000, 16,000.
Brilliant.
Because of their
power.
Reach.
The power.
Of their social media audience.
It's amazing.
Great process. I thought it was fantastic.
And I think I've read about restaurants now creating sort of experiences that they're becoming not themed as such, but the environment in which you're dining in and the way the food looks is so important.
I've read an incredible
people take pictures of everything and they want to share it all.
I read an incredible stat last night actually. I think it was Mashable, but so I don't know how true it was, but 78% of millennials are choosing their holiday destination based on how Instagrammable it is.
Oh my gosh.
I've got that slide in a presentation. I see that.
Incredible. Amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if that's a good or bad thing.
So the things,
but true.
But true. And quite powerful.
That makes the power of real life experiences so important, because people want content to share, which is why I think experiential is thriving, will continue to thrive.
Yeah.
But it's making it a good experience. So it's the investment to make it, because there is so much going on in their worlds, and it is getting them up to look up and then film. So it has to be a good experience.
So last thing then, just conscious of time.
Yes.
And
Been
how
kicked
warm
out.
this room is.
I'm so hot.
Yeah, it's really. Is that just a statement? I'm so hot right now.
You're not. You're really not.
So basically, one thing then in terms of experiential, to anyone listening, your market manager or brand manager or something like that, or exec or CMO, whatever. What would you give them, in terms of advice for their first step into this?
Have a leap of faith.
Question.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we'd have to understand what their problem is, what problem needs solving. Do they want more data? Do they want more sales? Do they want brand awareness? It really comes down to what they're looking to achieve. And it's an interesting one if someone that's never done it before, how you convince them that this is right for them. But they probably, like anything, dip your toes in.
Yeah.
Dip your toes in.
Yeah.
If you do run a chain of restaurants, then some street teams, low budget, low cost, will give you a very quick insight to how effective that is going to be.
You can trial experiential, I think, in that sense.
Yeah.
You can test it out.
Yeah.
And see what works. We have, loads of case studies of things to show examples of the kind of budgets something could cost if you want to do something bigger like a vehicle, if you want to build an installation. So I guess it's arming yourself with knowledge.
Yeah.
And then in terms of what you do, be authentic, be real. Tap into what sits comfortably with people viewing your brand. Does it make sense what you're doing?
Yeah.
Does it sort of add up? People will dismiss you if it doesn't add up.
Give people a genuine treat. If you are sampling, give them a really nice sample.
Yeah.
So it's invest.
It could be a quarter slice of a chocolate brownie, but if that mouthful of chocolate brownie is epic, you're going to think good about
epic
that.
Brownie.
So
So I think what we find is, obviously we work in this industry, you think everyone knows about it, but actually I think there is still a lack of knowledge about it and a lack of awareness of what you can and can't do. So it's arming yourself with as much information about the options that are out there for you, and therefore working out with guidance from yourself or from ourselves about what would be the right thing for you to do.
And I think that's a really good point to wrap things up. And as you say, I think it's just for most problems that you have in terms of a brand, whether it's increasing brand awareness or sales, experiential is definitely worth a look.
I think it's
It's ultimately about getting your product or your service in the hands of your customers.
Yeah.
And building a relationship.
Getting them to feel it, taste it, see it. And we all, I certainly myself, if I do something, I'm more likely to remember it than if I see something or hear something. So
You're so millennial.
I wish.
He wishes.
I wish. I'm about a decade past it, but I'll take that.
Well, listen, thanks so much for coming in
It's
today.
a pleasure, Mark. Thank you for having us.
Lots and lots of great tips there.
Yeah, thank you.
And yeah, we'll catch
Wonderful.
up soon. Thanks so much to James and Sarah for coming in today to share all of their stories and experience about everything experiential. Some great examples there, and also the Branston pickle example blew my mind in terms of 500% uplift in sales. Just incredible return on investment, and something for all of us to consider when we're looking at promoting our businesses. There's some links as well that you might be interested in the podcast notes. Definitely have a look at those for further information. Also, please rate, review and subscribe to the podcast. We really appreciate it, and tell all your friends. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for making it this far. Huge thank you to the production and design team, Gabby, Gaz and Mihal, for all of their hard work and efforts for putting this together. I'm Mark McCulloch, and this was Spectacular.